you're trying to make? Do you just try, like, do you throw in like Michael Chandler and you just finally do this fight of two guys that, like, I personally am not that interested in it. I wasn't interested in this fight, to be quite honest, but I learned a big lesson this past week that you know who the winners of last week really were to me? It was Ireland. Okay. Like this, and I know he has some of his fans there, but if I were to tell you, Way, that this guy who was found civilly liable for rape is going to be welcome back, what would be the one population base that would wrap their arms around their heroic figure? Ireland would be the country you would think would have the most turning a blind eye towards this, and instead they were the harshest in terms of holding this guy to a level of account. And I think it was a fascinating way to just watch how this primarily American-based audience either just did not care about this or just willfully buried their head in the sand for 7 days. And that extends across a lot of places that just did not want to touch this, that this was something outside of the fight realm, and we are just going to focus on Conor McGregor, the fighter. And I found it shameful, to be honest, throughout the week of how much this was completely ignored. But like, I learned that lesson, and I can't say I was surprised by it, but it will happen again. And I think if you give this a year, I really question what the UFC looks at this last fight and where their value of Conor is. Of, does Conor make it to another fight if they get behind it? They tried the fight 2 years ago and he breaks his toe. We put all these resources, we promote a fight, does he even get to the fight? He barely got to this one. I mean, he lasted 69 seconds. It's like, would you be spending top dollar for a Conor McGregor fight when you watch this? It's one thing to watch the fight and the guy just can't perform, but you get the fight in the end. You didn't even get the fight here. And I think that's the question, is what is this guy's physical viability when you tack on another year and another surgery and another rehabilitation? That, are you even going to get this fight, and are you going to want to spend money on it?
Yeah, they might not extend him. And if they choose not to extend, then I think you pair him with somebody that would maybe create some sort of, like, level of doubt that feels like it would be winnable for Conor. But I think you would ultimately want to defeat Conor in order to, gain some of that spotlight. I think no matter what, though, there's still going to be a ton of interest for this guy fighting.
It's happened too many times that you would be naive not to think that it would still be a big deal.
Yeah, as far as coverage of the Nikita Hayne story goes, I mean, that's entirely the sort of, like, I think audiences' willingness to just, like, ignore it is because of the media's willingness to ignore it, like him showing up on Jimmy Fallon as if, like, it was just sort of like nothing had happened. I think communicates to people that, hey, like, this was not really a big deal, or, like, maybe they don't even know about it. And there's no real shame that's kind of being communicated, for people that are choosing to watch and support this show. Like, even like the Vince story, how much coverage did that story get when the initial New York Times article came out versus when the actual lawsuit came out, with much more sort of, like, shareable, like, graphic detail about what had taken place?
Yeah, I mean, the initial wave, when the Wall Street Journal did its first set of stories, like the initial wave, like, there was a lot of coverage of it at the beginning, but by the time we fast forward, like, that's June 2022. Like, Janelle Grant files her lawsuit in January 2024, and it's probably not at the same level as when the initial reports came out. But even in seeing, just like from my own eyes, like the difference of when, like, these voicemails come out and all of a sudden it's like, oh, people are hearing stuff, but it's like how much is being read. And if we, as much as I, like, made this comparison, I asked Neil last week, like, would pro wrestling accept a figure like Conor McGregor? And both of us thought, like, no, there would be a lot more pushback. And then it hits me like a Vince McMahon. How many times have we theorized that if this guy were to walk out on Raw next Monday, what would that reaction be? I think he'd still get a gigantic positive response. So I think it's just a reality of the situation that a lot of these uncomfortable stories, it's either ignoring them or it's being completely naive to them and just wanting to not think about complicated thoughts. But that's not an excuse to not cover it or not to talk about difficult things, because this person is not given that luxury of having that part scrubbed from his history. Like you are not given, you do not have that allowance granted to you because you are a big star.
But it's also a sport that allows for shitty people to be headliners, right? It sort of I mean, the UFC themselves are telling everybody that, like, this is okay, and that, you know, we have shitty people that you can watch fight or get beaten up, and I think they're totally happy with that. So
do you think we'll get just on a separate topic, do you think Paramount will put out like viewership figures for this card? And do you think there's a chance that this was more viewed than the White House card?
Yeah, for both of them.
Well, that was Saturday's one of the many events that was going down on Saturday. We do have a review show with myself and Eric Marcotte going through the Conor story and the whole rest of the card as well. Oh, by the way, Max Holloway won the fight. We didn't even mention Max Holloway there in the first 17 minutes, but he did technically win and wants a third fight.
I'm sure he does.
The audacity.
How much did he make?
He stayed like more than he's probably ever made in his career by probably several times that. But man, I understand, like, you're just in the middle of it, but the gall of this guy to get on the microphone, and then these fans that literally, it was $1,300 a head per ticket for this gate to accommodate. And he's talking about running this back a third time of these people who had just spent like loads of money. And he's just, let's do this again. It's like, are you kidding me?
And there
are you kidding me?
That would pay the same amount.
There are. Yeah. It's like, you know what? Absolutely. It's July on the Post Wrestling Cafe, and that means our extensive G1 coverage begins starting July 11th. We're going to have reviews of every single G1 card right up to and including the finals in the middle of August. Plus, Rewind Away takes a look at 2 episodes of Heels. We're also going to be going back to 2005 for a review of WrestleMania 21, and it is the start of our double shot episodes covering this season of Dark Side of the Ring. Plus, we are going to dive into the 3rd season of WWE Unreal. All that and so much more can be yours by signing up to the Post Wrestling Cafe. It gets you XL editions of Rewind to Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown, Collision Course on a weekly basis, MCU later, and so much more.